Good morning, financial algebra peeps. Today we are going to be solving for the loan amount. So these are the directions, these are the slides posted on Canvas today. Make sure each member of your group is doing this simultaneously. You guys are using your partners to check your work and updating your Desmos file. So first things first, you're going to open your all functions Desmos file, and you should already have a file called a loan amount. And within this file, you should have noted your vertex from the profit function, noted your demand function, because we took the price from the profit function and plugged it right in to the demand function to figure out the quantity demanded at that particular price. Then we're taking that quantity demanded and we're going to plug it into our expense function. So that's why we need to note our expense function. But actually, we're borrowing 2 months worth of our expenses for the loan. So we needed to multiply that by 2 before we plug in that quantity into our expense function. Once we plugged in our quantity, that gives us the expenses needed for 2 months. And this is our total loan amount that we have. Divide that by however many people are in our groups as equal business partners, and that is the loan amount per person. Okay, the loan amount per person is the future value. And for our formula that you guys have in just a few steps, that's going right here, the future value. Okay, then you typed in this really ugly formula into Desmos, FV equals PV, square bracket 1 plus R over N, parentheses, raised to the N T exponent minus 1, close bracket, all divided by R over N. And we were just making a note of what all of these variables mean. FV means future value, aka the loan amount per person. PV is the present value, aka the amount of money that we earned from stocks, which we calculated yesterday. R is the interest rate for the loan. N represents the number of times it's compounded per year. Loans can be compounded annually, monthly, weekly, bi-weekly. There's all different kinds of stuff that can happen. And then T is time in years. And that is actually what we're going to be solving for today. So we have our future value. That's how much we needed to borrow for the loan per person. We have the present value. That's how much money we have earned from our stocks to help us pay off the loan. And essentially this really gnarly formula is just helping us figure out how we can work backwards to solve for how long we'll be paying off this loan. I am giving you the interest rate as 4.5%, so we have that. And I'm just going to make it easy and just say that this is an annual compounding, so I'm also giving us N. So note that all of this stuff is here in our notes here, so you should put this stuff in your Desmos file. You should write down all of this information, that your future value is whatever the loan amount per person was. Your present value was the amount we got from our stock calculation yesterday. R is our interest rate, and N is the number of times that's compounded. Our interest rate, I just gave it to you, 4.5%. That's 0.045 as a decimal. And the number of times it's being compounded per year is once, so N is going to be equal to 1. Just to give you an idea of how much detail you should have in your loan amount file, I put some screenshots of mine. So as you can see, this is my loan amount file. And I started off noting my vertex. I reminded myself that X represents price, Y is quantity. I told myself what my demand function was from my data. Then I told myself that I was going to substitute in the price from here into the quantity to figure out what is the quantity demanded. So you can see that I took my demand function and I substituted, just essentially plugged in that price right here. And now this gives me my quantity demanded. Okay, this is a quantity. This is a quantity. If that's a quantity, we have to always round it up. I can't have 0.52 of a product. I'm just going to round it all the way up. Ignore all of your rounding rules, just round it up. I also made note what my expense function was, and then kind of like reminded myself like what the variable and fixed costs were those numbers go in here. So you can see my expense function really is this. Many of you probably just have this, and that's totally fine. I just like to be very thorough on exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and where this stuff came from. I did remind myself that I needed 2 months of variable cost to borrow, so that's why there's a 2 in front of the 132Q. So now this is just the same step right up here. And then you can see that I'm going to plug in my quantity demanded from earlier. So that Q that I just found right here, well, that I rounded it up, is going to be plugged into my expense function. So here is my new expense function with 2 in front of it because I need to borrow 2 months worth. Here is my quantity being plugged into the Q variable, and what I just found gave me my total loan amount. Okay, so I even made a note. My total loan amount is 2423488. So that's a lot of money, $2,423,488. That's how much me and all of my business partners would need for our business. So we're going to divide it evenly. If you have 2 people, you divide by 2. If you had 3 people, you divided it by 3. Boom shakalaka. Now I've got, this is how much we need per person. Remember, this is a loan, and so that's money. So I rounded it to 2 decimal places. So the loan amount per person is 807,829.33. I also told myself that this is the future value. Okay. FV, noted myself, because this number that I just got right here is gonna substitute right in there. Okay. You should have had this really ugly formula typed in here. I made sure every group member had this before. Remember, future value is your loan amount. Present value is from the stocks. R is the interest rate as a decimal, and I gave that to you. N is the number of times that it's compounded yearly. I gave that to you. That's 1. And T is the time in years. So you can see right below in my screenshot, I started to write down like what those values were. Like FV was the number, PV was the number, the interest rate was the number, the interest rate was the number, 4.5% is a decimal, N was 1, and then I even told myself that T is left as T. Feel free to do that or a combination of these things, because now we're going to take our formula that we have. Essentially, we're going to copy and paste it and plug in all of these numbers so that instead of having a ton of variables everywhere, we have one variable, and our goal is to use our algebra skills to solve for it. Okay, so again, just saying that you're going to want to copy and paste this formula down here, but instead of FV, you're going to take this amount and replace it. Okay, for your present value, however much you earned from your stocks, right? You're going to replace it. The interest rate that I gave you, 4.5%, you're going to delete the letter R and replace it with 0.045. You're going to take N, which is the number of times something is compounded. I told you that we're going to leave that as 1. I'm giving that to you, and replace the letter N with the number 1. And last but not least, we're just going to leave T as it is. So that really ugly formula just became this. And our goal now is to solve for the letter T. We're going to solve for T. And basically, all we need to do is inverse operations, opposites, undoing operations to get T by itself to help us pay off the loan. Okay, so I kind of tried to break it down for you because it feels overwhelming when you look at the work, but it's really not that bad. Again, some steps to solve for T, just to make it as straightforward as possible. Your number one goal to start off, once you've substituted everything, is simplify as much as possible to start. Okay, even though we have numbers instead of letters, it's still a little crazy. So let's start by simplifying this expression. Notice that we have a fraction divided by 1, the same fraction divided by 1. that's just going to be 0.045, right? So if I'm starting to simplify this expression, and I'm just writing it out here so that it's easy for you guys to see. Sorry, I'm going to write pretty large here. This now becomes 1 plus 0.045. Oh, and also, now that I'm here, 1 times t, hello, that's just t. So let's just write this as t, okay? Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And then this whole right side is divided by 0.045. Already, that's looking a little bit better. But now that I'm here, I'm like, well, wait a minute. This 1 plus 0.045, that's just 1.045. So we can simplify that as well. Now, this should be the same for every group because we're all having the same interest rate. We're all dividing by 1. We all have that exponent of t. So everyone should start off with the same equation. What you will have that's different is like whatever this number is going to be different from group to group. Whatever this number is. Oops, I wrote down the wrong number, by the way. Whoops. Whatever this number is from your investments is going to be different for every single group. But everything else so far, that very first step of just simplifying should be the same. So I already went from something really, really complicated like this to a little less complicated when I substituted in all of my values to now significantly less complicated because I simplified the small stuff. That's always a good rule of thumb. Then really the crux of the matter, what we actually have to do is use inverse operations to work from the outside in to get the letter T by itself. So we all have something that looks like this. Immediately, we're going to have to undo the denominator. This guy dividing by 0.045 needs to go. The opposite of division is multiplication. Whatever we do on one side of the equal sign, we're going to do to the other. So to get rid of dividing by 0.045, we're going to multiply by both sides by 0.045. Okay, I kind of ran out of space here, but that will cancel this side out. Whoops. And I will multiply this by 0.045. Okay, what this ends up leaving me with is this on the left side. Whoops. And what we end up having over here is 878, whatever this number is for you, times 1.045 to the t minus 1. Okay, so remember parentheses, even if they're square ones, they mean, it means multiply. So now we're going to have to undo multiplication, right? If I want to undo multiplication, like this guy is multiplying by this expression, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I'll divide by whatever this number is. Remember, each group is going to have a different number there. Okay, boom. That makes my right-hand side significantly simpler. Now it's 1.045 to the t minus 1. Everyone's right-hand side should look like that. And the left-hand side is a little bit crazier. It's whatever you have on this side. Actually, I'm just going to copy and paste it for time. Copy, paste. All right, so now we have this. Okay. Again, now we're like, okay, we're getting closer and closer to getting t by itself. At this point, this -1 needs to go. I have to undo subtracting by 1. How do we undo subtraction? Well, with addition. Whatever we do on one side, we do to the other. So now we have 1.045 to the t equals all of this stuff on the left plus 1. Okay, so, and now you're at the last part. To solve for an exponent, okay, because t is an exponent. To solve for an exponent, you need to use a logarithm. Whatever the base of your logarithm or of your exponential is, remember that's like the base of the exponent to the letter. Whatever your base is, that's going to have to be the base of your logarithm. Whoops. So if my base is 1.045, which everyone's is that, we're going to need to take the log of 1.045 on both sides. So this means I'm going to take the log base 1.045 on the left. And for all of this stuff on the right, I'm going to have to take the log of base 1.045 on the right. Just reminding you of what that kind of looks like. Let me make this work a little bit smaller and move it over. Okay. When you take the log of both sides, what you did was this part and this part cancels out, leaving you with just t on this side. And although it feels a little hectic and a little crazy, you have the log base 1.045 of the expression, all of that stuff inside the parentheses equals t. And although this seems really crazy, dude, it's just a calculator problem. And trust me, Desmos can definitely handle it. So these are your steps to solve for t. They're the same general steps for everyone, but you're going to have a different number on the left side of the equal sign. You're going to have a different number outside of the parentheses on the right of the equal sign. But pretty much everything else is the same. You're going to undo division by multiplying, undo multiplying by dividing, undo minusing 1 by plussing 1 on both sides, and then taking the logarithm of both sides. So here's my work just like punched into Desmos so you can see what I was talking about here. This was my loan amount. This is how much I earned from my stocks, right? And I even went really crazy with the simplifying and went through step by step. I simplified the fractions to just this to begin with. Then I told myself I was simplifying this part, which we did a 2-for-1 together. And now I'm ready to undo division by multiplying. So I'm going to multiply both sides. And I just showed it on the left side and it disappeared on the right hand side. Then I'm like, okay, now I need to undo this part right here. So I said to undo multiplying, divide. I divided the left-hand side by that number, and I left the right-hand side nice and simple. Then I was like, all right, I'm going to have to get rid of this -1, so I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Here's adding 1 to the left side, and the right side got nice and simple. Here I'm saying to solve for the exponent, I'm going to use logarithms. I'm going to have to take the log with base 1.045. Now you have to use the subscript on Desmos, but you'll see like I literally showed it on both sides, kind of like I showed it on my work earlier. This side essentially gets completely simplified to just t, which is really nice. The left-hand side is the logarithm. Please make sure that you have the parentheses surrounding the entire argument. Everything goes inside the parentheses. And you'll see here that Desmos did this for me. And so I made a final note that I said that we will be paying off this loan for about 8 years. This says 7.8, but let's just round this. Once you get here, y'all, click save, and then put this in your slides. Put this information in your slides as a collaborative effort, okay? This is your goal today. You're going to do great. Whatever you don't finish in class, you need to work outside of class. All right, catch you in the next video on Tuesday.